Duke Wilhelm, despite being a very, very young, well, not man, a boy, there was a deal that he should marry Jadwiga, who at that time was also a very young girl. But for the two to get to know each other well, Jadwiga was sent to Vienna to live there for a few years to get to know Wilhelm better. And for a couple of years, this was the plan. However, then there was an opening. Initially, the plan that Mary should become, because after the death of Louis the Great, Mary became Queen of Hungary, and she was supposed to become Queen of Poland as well. But the Polish nobles, they did not like the idea of continuing what had been during Louis the Great, with him having his royal court in Hungary and not really having any king in Poland itself. So they told the Hungarians that they wanted Jadwiga to become their queen instead. There were some debates whether this was a good idea, but in the end, her mother, Elizabeth of Bosnia, had the final word. She thought this was an excellent idea and sent her as quickly as possible to the Wawel Castle in Krakow, where the Polish royal dynasty had been housed for centuries by that point. There was a little bit of a power struggle in Poland. Przemysław IV of Mazovia wanted to become king as well. He had support by the nobility in Greater Poland, so the region around which is today Poznań. Jadwiga, on the other hand, was supported by the nobility of Lesser Poland, so the area around Kraków itself. There was another debate on whom she should marry. The Poles were not really thrilled with the idea of Duke Wilhelm of Austria becoming her husband. They felt that he was too weak. His interests were a little bit too far in the west. The Poles were becoming increasingly preoccupied with the Teutonic Knights that had been established to the north, naturally in what later became Eastern Prussia, and today is partly Kaliningrad, partly northern Poland. But also further to the north, there was another branch of the Teutonic Knights, the so-called Livonian Order. They were in charge of an area called Terra Mariana, or Mary's Land in Latin. This was to justify their very bloody crusades that they had engaged in over there, and murdered truly great numbers of people of various Baltic tribes, but basically what would later become the nations of Estonia, Latvia, and some other Baltic tribes in the region. Naturally also probably the most famous tribe that they completely eradicated were the old Prussians, who were a Baltic tribe, but later these Germans in the area, they took over the name, and Prussia became their name, but originally it was a Baltic tribe. Nevertheless, these Teutonic Knights, they were becoming an increasing problem for Poland, but even more for the pagan Lithuanians of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania to the northeast of Poland, which, despite being the last pagan state of Europe, they were an extremely powerful duchy, even though they had a king, King Mindigaus, in the 13th century, but later on they went back to their status of being a duchy and having a duke, a grand duke. But if we look at them territorially, at the start of the 14th century, around 1320, they moved into this vacuum that had been created in what is today Belarus and Ukraine. After this raid of the Mongols in 1240, there was general chaos in the region. The old Kievan Rus had fallen and had been divided into various small provinces that were many of them were fighting each other. The Lithuanians took advantage of this. They moved far down south. They came into control of Kiev. They even reached the shores of the Black Sea. So at that moment, they geographically had the largest state in Europe. It wasn't that densely populated, however, so naturally France was still the largest European state of the time in terms of population. But nevertheless, the Lithuanians, they were quite powerful. But it has to be said that the Teutonic Knights were also very well organized. They knew how to fight wars on a high level, and they were a serious problem for the Lithuanians. So here the Polish nobility, the Lithuanian nobility, they started thinking maybe there should be an alliance. And thus the idea was for Queen Jadwiga. She had been crowned in Wawel in 1384, so by then she was, we say queen, but yes, again, technically she was king.
Adam, I'm sorry, the clock in the corner of the studio is winking at me, so we're going to have to pause there, but we will pick it up next time. There we are. I've interrupted Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not, if you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll continue the story of Jadwiga, the first female monarch of Poland. In the meantime, thank you for watching.